Have you ever felt the weight of unspoken thoughts building inside you, afraid that sharing them could change how she sees you? Most men carry this burden silently, and yet very few ever understand that there are parts of your inner world you are allowed to keep private, without it harming your connection, without it making you less trustworthy, without it making you a bad partner. Here's the first truth most men are never told. Openness is not the same as total transparency. Being honest in a relationship doesn't mean every single thought, every fleeting doubt, every minor insecurity has to be broadcast. In fact, trying to be completely transparent can often backfire, creating unnecessary tension, misunderstanding, or even anxiety in her mind. Female psychology operates on subtleties. Women are highly attuned to emotional energy, tone, and intent. They notice micro-expressions, the pauses between words, the hidden layers beneath what you say, but they are not looking for complete access to every mental process you experience. What they value is clarity of intent, emotional reliability, and consistency. Not full disclosure of everything that passes through your mind. That's why some things are better held privately, not to deceive, not to manipulate, but to preserve your emotional autonomy. Your inner world is yours, and preserving it allows you to remain grounded, confident, and secure in ways that total transparency can undermine. Now, here's where most men go wrong. They assume that silence or discretion equals dishonesty. They believe if they aren't sharing everything, she will sense some hidden agenda. This couldn't be further from the truth. A woman's mind, when attuned to authenticity, can sense when you are being genuine, even if you are not disclosing every thought. Authenticity is energy, not a transcript. The second truth, emotional oversharing can create imbalance. Relationships thrive on energy flow, not overanalysis. When men disclose too much too quickly, particularly fears, doubts, or grievances that haven't yet been processed internally, it can create a sense of burden. She might respond with empathy at first, but over time, too much raw information can reduce emotional attraction. Why? Because she is drawn to emotional strength, not unresolved weight. She wants a partner who can manage his internal world and bring stability, not someone who deposits all their mental chaos onto her without discretion. This leads us to the third, often misunderstood principle. Privacy is not secrecy, it is self-mastery. A man who keeps certain thoughts and experiences private demonstrates the ability to regulate his own mind, to process challenges independently, and to decide what is helpful to share versus what is unnecessary. This isn't about hiding things, it's about curating your emotional energy, which creates a deeper form of respect and attraction. Consider the ways this manifests in everyday life. Perhaps you have doubts about a past decision or fleeting negative thoughts about someone else, or insecurities about your career, finances, or appearance. These are natural. Everyone experiences them. But broadcasting every internal flicker can signal instability. Instead, learning which thoughts strengthen the relationship when shared and which ones destabilize it when voiced is a skill few men consciously develop. Here is the fourth truth. Women are not mind readers. They don't need to know everything you think to feel close to you. In fact, many women find it comforting when their partner demonstrates discernment in sharing. It shows that you are thinking about the impact of your words, that you respect her emotional space, and that you are capable of self-reflection. It communicates maturity, emotional intelligence, and reliability, qualities that are far more attractive than total transparency. The fifth point is subtle but critical. What you share should be additive, not disruptive. Every disclosure should either deepen understanding, increase trust, or foster intimacy. Anything that does not serve these purposes can often be held privately. This is the essence of emotional curation, knowing what to release, when, and how. A man who masters this doesn't need to justify himself constantly or explain every mental fluctuation. His presence alone communicates strength and emotional stability. Now, let's address a common fear that keeps men from exercising this principle: the fear of being perceived as distant, cold, or untrustworthy. This fear is real, but it is also misplaced. Women, particularly those attuned to healthy relationship dynamics, instinctively differentiate between genuine emotional withdrawal and self-regulated privacy. The former pushes them away, the latter can draw them closer. The sixth truth lies in understanding emotional bandwidth. Women, just like men, have limits to how much unresolved or raw emotional content they can process at once. Oversharing can overload that bandwidth, even if the intentions are good. By keeping certain thoughts private, you allow the relationship's emotional space to remain breathable and safe while still maintaining intimacy in ways that are meaningful and connective. Consider the seventh truth. Not every curiosity needs to be shared. You may think she would want to know all your opinions, past experiences, or hypothetical scenarios. In reality, sharing selectively, focusing on relevance, timing, and emotional resonance is far more effective than total disclosure. It maintains your allure, keeps the emotional dynamic balanced, and fosters natural curiosity in the relationship. Eighth, understand the power of mystery and self-containment. A man who respects his own inner world creates magnetic energy. Women are drawn to partners who have a mind of their own, who are self-contained, and who bring a sense of stability and calm presence to interactions. This doesn't mean being secretive or evasive, it means cultivating an inner life that is self-directed and measured. Finally, the ninth truth. Curated sharing builds trust and attraction simultaneously. Every relationship has an unspoken rhythm of disclosure. By sharing what matters most, when it matters most, and preserving what is unnecessary for her knowledge, you create a dynamic of respect, intrigue, and emotional depth. You signal that you are thoughtful, reliable, and intentional, qualities that enhance long-term attraction far more than total transparency ever could. Mastering these 9 principles is not about manipulation, it's about understanding human psychology, both yours and hers. It's about learning that intimacy is not the absence of privacy, but the presence of emotional intelligence, discernment, and respect. The men who understand this rarely struggle with connection. They enjoy deeper trust, smoother communication, and a natural magnetism that comes from being fully present, yet emotionally self-regulated. And for women, being with a man who masters this balance feels safe, exciting, and genuinely attractive. So, reflect on this. Which parts of your mind are serving the relationship when shared, and which parts are better held privately to maintain your emotional strength? Understanding this distinction will change the way you connect and the way she experiences your presence in ways most men never realize. Now let's go deeper into the hidden psychology behind why some thoughts are better kept private. Understanding this isn't about control or manipulation, it's about emotional strategy, clarity, and maintaining the balance that keeps attraction alive. Many men never realize this, and it's why relationships often feel strained, even when both people genuinely care. The first layer to understand is that women are naturally sensitive to emotional energy. They pick up on fluctuations in mood, tension, and hesitation that a man may not even notice in himself. When you share every doubt, insecurity, or fleeting negative thought, it floods that sensitivity. Suddenly, the emotional equilibrium is disrupted. She may interpret it as weakness, uncertainty, or instability, not because she's shallow, but because human brains are wired to detect reliability in emotional signals. Consider this. When a man shares too much too quickly, it can unconsciously trigger her protective instincts. Women, psychologically, are drawn to partners who provide emotional security. Oversharing can create the opposite effect. Instead of drawing her closer, it can push her into a subtle state of evaluation, asking herself whether this man can truly be relied upon to maintain emotional stability in the long term. This is why selective sharing matters. It's not about lying or withholding in a deceptive sense. It's about being aware of the impact your words and energy have on her perception. A man who can hold some internal thoughts privately demonstrates resilience, self-regulation, and strength. These qualities, paradoxically, increase attraction. She senses that you are capable of managing your own mind and emotional state, which is deeply reassuring on a subconscious level. Another critical aspect is timing. When you choose when and how to share certain thoughts, you control the emotional rhythm of the relationship. There is a natural flow to intimacy, moments when emotional vulnerability is welcomed, moments when it's premature, and moments when it's unnecessary. Recognizing these moments is a psychological skill few men consciously develop, but it differentiates those who create strong attraction from those who inadvertently push women away. Now, here's something most men overlook. Not every thought needs verbal expression. Sometimes your actions communicate far more than your words ever could. Respect, attentiveness, humor, confidence, these are all signals of internal stability that women respond to intuitively. By carefully curating your disclosures, you allow your actions to take the lead, which often speaks louder than over-explaining your inner world. Consider a practical example. Maybe you're worried about your financial situation, or you're feeling insecure about your physical appearance. Sharing every detail of these fears can create anxiety for her. Instead, addressing these issues internally and only sharing what is necessary or constructive allows her to see your capability without unnecessary emotional burden. It's a subtle but powerful distinction that often goes unnoticed by men. There's also a psychological principle at play called emotional containment. It's the ability to process your own internal world without transferring the stress or uncertainty to your partner. Men who master emotional containment naturally create attraction because they are perceived as emotionally stable, grounded, and capable of leadership in the relationship. Women unconsciously respond to this stability. It signals that the relationship will be safe, predictable, and supportive. Now let's talk about curiosity and intrigue. When you hold certain thoughts privately, not as secrets, but as part of your personal processing, you create a subtle sense of mystery. Mystery is not manipulation. It is natural human attraction. Women are drawn to men who have depth, who are not entirely an open book, because depth signals experience, competence, and independence. Total transparency removes that sense of intrigue and can unintentionally flatten attraction over time. Another hidden truth is that women often assess whether a man can self-reflect responsibly. By keeping some thoughts internal and processing them thoughtfully, you demonstrate that you are capable of introspection without relying on her to manage your emotions. This sends a powerful signal. You are emotionally intelligent, you respect her energy, and you are capable of leading yourself before leading the relationship. Finally, consider the long-term psychological effect of curated sharing. Relationships that practice thoughtful disclosure tend to have stronger emotional resilience. Both partners feel safe because boundaries are respected, emotional energy is regulated, and intimacy grows through trust rather than constant exposure. When a man understands what to share, when to share it, and why, he not only preserves his own emotional strength, but also elevates the emotional experience for his partner. Now, here's the subtle challenge most men face. Knowing which thoughts to share and which to keep private is not always intuitive. It requires self-awareness, mindfulness, and honesty with yourself. Are your fears and doubts truly relevant to her experience, or are they internal processes you need to work through yourself? This discernment is what separates men who maintain deep, lasting attraction from men who inadvertently create tension or emotional fatigue. By mastering this skill, you create a dynamic where she feels emotionally secure, attracted, and deeply respected. She sees you as someone who is self-aware, confident, and capable of managing your own internal world. A man who brings stability and energy rather than unpredictability and burden. And this leads to one of the most important truths about female psychology. Women are not attracted to men who are fully transparent in every thought. They are attracted to men who are emotionally strong, selectively vulnerable, and capable of holding themselves together. By understanding this distinction, you don't just improve the relationship, you elevate the way she experiences your presence on a fundamental, subconscious level. So take a moment to reflect. Which parts of your inner world are truly necessary to share, and which can remain privately processed to maintain your emotional strength? Mastering this subtle balance will change not only how she perceives you, but also how you experience yourself within the relationship. Now let's explore one of the most misunderstood aspects of relationships: the difference between privacy and secrecy. Most men fear that holding back certain thoughts makes them dishonest, but psychology tells a very different story. Privacy, when practiced with integrity, is not deception. It's self-respect. It's an understanding that your emotional world is yours to manage, and that not every impulse or worry benefits the relationship if shared. Think about it. Women, like men, are constantly processing social and emotional cues. They notice how you respond to challenges, how you manage stress, and how confident you remain in uncertainty. These observations matter far more than a constant stream of thoughts you decide to verbalize. Sharing everything may overwhelm her mind, dilute attraction, and even unintentionally shift the balance of emotional energy. This is where emotional discretion becomes a superpower. Men who practice it create a sense of groundedness. Women feel safe because a man who can manage his internal world doesn't offload anxiety or negativity unnecessarily. He doesn't require her to be his emotional lifeline. And here's the key. Emotional security is one of the most powerful attractors in female psychology. Women are drawn to men who create stability, not confusion. Let's break this down further. Imagine two men. One shares every fleeting doubt and insecurity the moment it arises. The other processes internally and communicates only what is relevant, constructive, or emotionally connective. Who do you think a woman will perceive as stronger, more reliable, and ultimately more desirable? The answer isn't subtle. The second man exudes calm confidence and reliability, while the first man risks becoming a source of emotional fatigue, even unintentionally. Another critical point is the concept of curated vulnerability. This doesn't mean shutting down or hiding your emotions. It means selecting the right moments to open up and doing so in ways that deepen connection rather than create tension. Vulnerability is attractive when it is intentional and balanced. It is detrimental when it is reactive or excessive. Learning this subtle art separates men who inspire loyalty and attraction from those who leave women unsure, anxious, or drained. Here's a truth most men never hear. Women are subconsciously evaluating your capacity for emotional self-management from the first interactions. They notice how you react to stress, disappointment, or minor conflicts. They sense whether you can process your inner world without creating chaos around you. By keeping some thoughts private, you demonstrate mastery over your emotional energy, which is interpreted as strength and competence, a powerful form of attraction that most men underestimate. Let's talk about another layer. The role of curiosity and mystery. When a man shares everything all at once, the sense of intrigue diminishes. Mystery isn't manipulation, it's natural depth. Humans are wired to seek discovery and novelty, and women are no exception. A man who holds some thoughts internally signals that he has a complex, interesting mind. She becomes more engaged, more curious, and more invested in understanding you over time. This subtle magnetic pull is lost when every thought is immediately exposed. Now, consider the balance between emotional sharing and restraint. There's a difference between constructive disclosure and mental dumping. Constructive disclosure builds intimacy. It's thoughtful, timely, and emotionally resonant. Mental dumping, on the other hand, releases raw, unprocessed thoughts in ways that can overwhelm, confuse, or even repel. Learning to differentiate these two modes is essential for maintaining attraction and respect. Another important factor is the principle of emotional reciprocity. Relationships function best when both partners contribute to the emotional balance. Sharing selectively ensures that you maintain your energy while still contributing to connection. It allows her to feel seen and valued without placing her in the position of constantly managing your internal fluctuations. This reciprocity fosters equality, trust, and sustainable attraction. Consider practical examples. Perhaps you've had a stressful day at work, or you're wrestling with personal doubts. Sharing these experiences in a way that communicates your emotional state without offloading every fleeting thought maintains intimacy while preserving stability. You acknowledge reality, express humanity, and invite empathy without creating emotional debt. This is a delicate yet incredibly effective psychological balance. Now, one of the most powerful truths about female psychology comes into play here. Women are drawn to men who are self-contained yet responsive. They notice when a man can hold himself together while still being attentive, affectionate, and present. It signals emotional resilience, leadership, and reliability, all deeply attractive qualities. Men who understand which thoughts to share and which to process privately automatically project this energy, often without consciously trying. Finally, the overarching lesson is this. Not everything you think or feel must be shared to maintain intimacy or trust. Emotional intelligence, psychological awareness, and careful discernment in disclosure create stronger, deeper, and more lasting attraction than total transparency ever could. Women sense when a man respects both himself and the emotional dynamics of the relationship. That subtle energy communicates far more than words ever could, and it creates a magnetic presence that draws her closer naturally. So reflect on this. How much of your inner world truly needs to be shared to strengthen connection, and how much can remain privately processed to maintain your strength, mystery, and emotional stability? Understanding this balance is not just a relationship strategy, it's a shift in how you carry yourself in the world, and it will profoundly change the way she experiences you. Now let's reveal the final layer that most men never understand, the part of female psychology that explains why what you choose not to share can actually deepen attraction and respect. This is where most relationships either thrive or quietly falter, and it all comes down to how you manage your inner world with intention. Here's the truth. A woman is not seeking a man who unloads every fleeting thought, every doubt, every insecurity onto her. She's seeking a man who is emotionally anchored, who can navigate his own mind with clarity, and who brings presence, calm confidence, and subtle mystery into the connection. The man who understands which thoughts to share and which to hold naturally radiates emotional strength, and this creates a psychological magnetism that is irresistible. Think about it. Attraction is not just chemistry. It is a constant, subconscious evaluation of emotional reliability. Women notice patterns far more than words. If you repeatedly demonstrate that you can hold your emotional space, process challenges privately, and communicate thoughtfully, she begins to trust your stability. That trust turns into comfort, and comfort allows desire to grow. When a man shares everything indiscriminately, that subtle psychological dance is lost, and attraction can stagnate. One of the most misunderstood ideas in relationships is the notion of complete openness equals intimacy. In reality, the opposite is often true. Curated emotional sharing, done with intention and awareness, creates the illusion of mystery while actually signaling deep authenticity. It allows a woman to feel that she is uncovering layers of a man over time, which fosters intrigue and excitement. Too much disclosure too soon flattens that dynamic. Here's another key point. You are allowed to protect your energy without being dishonest. Emotional energy is finite. Every interaction with a woman is an exchange. By keeping certain thoughts private, you are not creating walls. You are maintaining equilibrium. You are signaling that your mind is intentional, your presence is measured, and your focus is on quality rather than quantity. Women sense this, often subconsciously, and it increases respect and attraction. Let's examine the role of timing. Sharing the right thought at the right moment can amplify intimacy, while sharing the wrong thought at the wrong moment can deflate it. Men who master this timing create a rhythm in the relationship that keeps the connection engaging, dynamic, and emotionally safe. They create a space where curiosity flourishes, emotional closeness grows naturally, and attraction strengthens. Another psychological layer to consider is reciprocity of vulnerability. Women respond positively when they perceive that a man is vulnerable with intention, not out of habit or emotional overload. Thoughtful sharing signals. I trust you, I value this connection, and I am choosing to open up meaningfully. Unfiltered sharing signals. I need you to process my chaos, which often triggers stress or discomfort. Subtle difference, huge impact. Here's a subtle but powerful truth. Women are drawn to men who carry a sense of self-containment. A man who maintains his private mental and emotional space demonstrates maturity and independence. He is not dependent on her to regulate his mood or validate his insecurities. This containment is magnetic. It creates space for her to feel safe, respected, and drawn to the connection. Now, consider the long-term effect of this principle. Men who master selective disclosure and emotional curation experience relationships that are stable, engaging, and deeply connected. They avoid unnecessary conflicts caused by oversharing, reduce anxiety, and create a rhythm of emotional depth that women respond to instinctively. It's not about manipulation. It's about understanding psychology, energy, and the natural dynamics of human attraction. By respecting the boundaries of your own mind, you also respect hers. You communicate that you are deliberate, thoughtful, and emotionally intelligent. This, in turn, makes her feel more secure and more curious. The relationship grows in trust, intimacy, and passion, without unnecessary friction caused by over-disclosure. So now, reflect honestly. How often have you shared thoughts that didn't need to be shared? How many times have you diluted your own energy by not processing things internally first? And conversely, how might your presence change if you carefully curated what you express, keeping some thoughts private while sharing what truly strengthens intimacy? Here's your challenge. Identify one area of your inner world that you've been oversharing. Hold it privately for a week. Notice the difference in how she responds, how your presence feels, and how your confidence shifts. You may be surprised at the subtle, yet profound, increase in attraction and emotional depth. I want to hear from you. What's one thought or experience you've realized doesn't need to be shared to maintain trust, attraction, and intimacy? Write it in the comments below. Your insight could help someone else understand the power of emotional discretion in relationships. If this video gave you clarity on how to navigate female psychology, take a moment to subscribe, and share it with a friend. Who needs to hear this? Remember, mastering the balance between openness and privacy isn't just about relationships. It's about becoming the kind of man who naturally attracts respect, curiosity, and lasting connection.